Hey, what's going on? So I let's double check the sound, make sure everything's good. So I was listening to games industry video on Assassin's Creed Shadow. And Assassin's Creed Shadow, they was really talking about Star Wars Outlaw sale numbers, and I was just trying to get more information. And what something caught my mind or caught my attention. They were talking about they started talking about Star Outlaw and to say how the sales they have just on PlayStation and Xbox is around eight 800,000 units for just Xbox and PlayStation. That's just those sell numbers, not all the sell numbers. That just took right. Then they went on to say something interesting. They was like, they start talking about how the sales number doing real good, not high as they expected, but that was just for that one day or that one day out. Now they talk about the early access, and they start talking about how that really did affect the sale numbers, and then they start talking about how the little rent system they have, Ubisoft have now, with that you can rent it for like $20 for to rent it for a month, right? And it was like, okay, yeah, people can do that. And basically, it was saying Ubisoft see that maybe 10% more people will buy that system in order to play games they want to play. So they're not, they're basically it helping, but it could also be hurting overall profit. And I was like, okay, that's understandable. But then they went on to talk about uh, uh, all of the games that come out around that time. Again, it's the end of the year sales and stuff, so a bunch of games will be coming around that time. And they were like, well, no, they say Assassin's Creed Shadow is gonna sell big. It will be impossible for it not to sell big, but it still can happen. And then they start talking about how so many games will be coming out at the end of the year. And I'm like, wait, that's a good point. Why would you put your game or sell one of your biggest games during the big end of the year holiday rush system? That can impact your own game sales with so many other games and stuff. Not only going on sale, but also coming out. And I'm like, well, if you do that, your game can be impacting itself far lower than you expected. So them pushing it back is not because they want to do all of this, party stuff, which they can do with a little extra time. But at the same time, could the real reason they push it back in, until is it what is the date? Valentine's Day. They push it back on Valentine's Day. What did that tell you? They did this on purpose. They didn't push it back because they wanted to clean stuff up and polish it. They push it back on Valentine's Day because they want to give not only Star Outlaw, which just came out, which the original date was November the 15th. This came out in August, so it will have August, the end of August, which again 2 days. So we just have a full month, September, October, and half of November. So the two reasons they push it back is one, the holiday rush, which a bunch of games and stuff not only going to go on sale, but they're going to also probably some new games that come out around that time. So they push it back to not deal with that holiday rush and give people a little more time and everything. Yes, it'll give their workers a little more time to do some polishing stuff, but that doesn't matter. So they did two for you know coming close to the holiday rush. They also push it back to not interfere with Star Wars Outlaw and other game sales that come out. So the two reasons they push it back is to it wasn't because they oh no they worry about this not selling well because it's going to sell well. Star Wars Outlaw again. I keep going back to Star Wars Outlaw. So by their estimate on PS5 and Xbox Series X, S and X, Star Wars Outlaw sold $800. They don't have the rest of the system, but they saying that it sold really well, and that was just for like when they did the X-Men stuff a week later because this came out 13 days ago. They did the X-Men stuff for just the first 2 days, and or the first day really because some places are getting time zones. Funny thing. Um, they when they did the X-Men, there was Outlaw just for the really the first day of sales. Even if you used put in error access, which didn't really affect the numbers, it sold over $800 just for two systems. So them also selling them also selling Assassin's Creed Shadow, what gave Star Wars Outlaw again. They put you back to February. This came out in August, so it just had September, October, and half of November. People saying here, but it's the 14th. People still say it's going to be on the 15th, but it's February the 15th, but it's really the 14th. So it will have been just over a month and a half before Assassin's Creed Shadow came out. Oh, sorry, 2.5 months. So the real reason they push it back is not to collide with sales numbers, not only from Star Wars Outlaw, which there's a reason why you put out in August as well, because August is like the you want your game to come out. You don't want if you're gonna want you don't want your big games to come out in September, October, November, and December. Those last 4 months because that's the holiday rush. Any game come out during the holiday rush is trying to hit that get that big holiday rush, but that doesn't always work out well because during that time, so many other games going discount sales and stuff that came out previous years that it would impact your sales number. So what they are trying to do is not put stuff out on that holiday rush. That's why it came out at the end of August. So they did this on purpose. And because this was planned to be come out on in literally in the middle of the literally this was planned on come out in the middle of the sales rush. November the 15th. And they was like, well, if a bunch of games going discount on sale, could that impact the sales? Yes. So they push it back. They didn't push it back because sales stuff going forward. They push it back on purpose. And people were like, well, it's coming out. It's gonna come out the day after Valentine's Day. It's like, uh, Valentine's Day. Well, we're just gonna release it on Valentine's Day. So yeah. So they releasing it all Valentine's Day, and they're giving Star Wars Outlaw more space. And people like, oh no, it's Star Wars Outlaw is doing poorly. Again, you cannot say that. Now, I want to give credit to games industry because when I was listening to them, there's something that said caught my attention. I don't know if I can pull it up exactly, but I'm gonna try to just listen and pay attention.
And I'm sure that will hopefully there might be a bit more pressure on that now, because I was a bit disappointed in Star Wars Outlaws numbers. I was expecting more. I think we talked about it before.
I've got a global estimate for Star Wars out that's across Xbox and PlayStation. If you want,
Do you have one? Go on.
about 800,000.
Okay. Oh, really? No, it's still so. But
now you heard that? Oh, really? He was surprised that it was that high. They're like, still.
That was for the end of August. So that
had been on sale a couple of days. So yeah, hopefully it's past.
Yeah.
I was going to say hopefully it's past that million mark, but usually they'd at least announce that it's past a million sales.
Now,
you see what happened? He thought at first, he's like, oh, that's some high sales up, but could that be the total sale though? And he's like, yeah, maybe. And then when he said, oh, it's just for the end of August, those 2 days. You're like, oh, but they're higher and better than what I thought.
I think the games. It's not the story of games like this. It's a weird year, right? So you look at the year ahead. You look at the Christmas we've got. There's some big games coming out.
Yeah.
There aren't that many. And when you look at a game like, Assassin's Star Wars Outlaws, you think I expect it'll be in Black Friday deals and promotions and offers. As a PS4 game, as Xbox One game, it's one of the bigger games that's coming out. It's a bit weird that it came out right next to the launch of another PS4 Star Wars game, but it was there was a.
You heard that? That one caught my attention right there. He was like, Assassin's Creed is coming out right next to another big game. So it's too close together. And Ubisoft and everybody was like, oh, shoot, that could pack both games sales. So we need to separate it a little more.
I think there's still a chance for it. Avatar sort of fell away.
Before I go, yeah, so they basically just split it up a little bit to give both games their own time to shine, basically.
Quite quickly, it did okay. We're not talking Concord levels of flops here, right? We're talking games that just perhaps didn't break out in a way that we thought they might. It's a really tricky industry. I find it fascinating how these licensed games don't necessarily deliver. They're not as
and obviously they have to pay for there's the expense of the license for that. Obviously, you need to earn more. Looking at the daily active user data, I just looked it up on our platform. It's looking, it's looking okay.
Yeah.
So we've got it at the moment up until the 8th of September.
8th of September. Remember that. 8th of September. So it came out on the 30th. They only have up to the 8th of September. So that's a 10-day split. When was this released? The 17th. So they don't have the full detail. They just have sales number from the first few days. On this, they only have sales numbers from the first few days, and up to players and stuff up to the 8th of September.
We're getting the refresh today for the previous weeks. So
previous week.
To see whether...
Again, 8th of September, and they have all of this information they have for the previous week. Meaning, maybe they have it from the 7th to the 30th, or maybe it could be from the 1st to the 30th. That could depend on when it's set, where it's set. So they can have it. They can have it 8 days numbers, or they can have 3 days, or they can have 2. It could be any one of them.
That's come down a lot, but it's relatively consistent from launch onwards in terms.
Yeah.
Did it have a pre-launch?
Yeah, 3 days
at the moment up until the 8th.
Now listen to what we say. It's been consistent. I mean, it didn't really drop off or anything. It's just been consistent sale numbers. It's been relatively consistent, so it's wavering, but consistent how it sells.
September, we're getting the refresh today for the previous weeks. So it'd be interesting to see whether that's come down a lot, but it's relatively consistent from launch onwards in terms.
Yeah.
Did it have a pre-launch?
Yeah, 3 days early access.
3 days, yeah.
In the Super Duper Special Edition.
So that was too specific. Was that for people with the deluxe edition?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting actually. Somebody mentioned on social media. I don't expect it's going to be very high, but how Ubisoft is it Ubisoft Plus the subscription?
This is going on to the Ubisoft the little Plus subscription where you can rent it for a month for $20.
Service, how that's impacting, because Ubisoft's approaching that as almost like a rental scheme for their games, right? You can subscribe for a month and play. In fact, you did it for Assassin's Creed Mirage. You could have subscribed at the beginning of that month, played it,
yeah, they've been doing for years now.
And because it's not a big game, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Same with games like Prince of Persia.
Outlaws is a similar length. It's not like a 100-hour game for there. So yeah, people could well just rent, as you say.
So I don't think the numbers are huge. I'm not expecting it to have been like hundreds of thousands. It's not available on every platform, Ubisoft Plus, but it's just an interesting thing that they've created an opportunity for you to basically rent a Ubisoft game. And Ubisoft said when we spoke to them earlier in the year, like 1 in 10 people who are because of their system, they're finding like a lot of it's bringing in people who've never played a Ubisoft game before because they can now go, I can give this a go for.
You see what I'm saying? It could be a good thing for Ubisoft to do the little rental center. People who want to buy the game can buy the game. People who only have, say, $20 can just rent it. This also can, come to think about it, this also can impact the game being going on sale. Because if they have a rental system and you can pay $20 for the rental system to play for the month, they don't need to put it on sale. The sale price, the actual sell price can stay the same.
For I don't know, 15 quid or whatever it is, and play and maybe even complete this Ubisoft game. And I think they're okay with that. It's just I don't know if that might be having a detrimental impact upon the sales figures. But it's I feel I'm a little concerned for Ubisoft. I think that they've put out some really good stuff actually in the last 2 years. I don't think they've not had their moment. But then we haven't really had.
Ubisoft have been doing good for the past 2 years. Even though a few list of haters, they'll use the stock market. And the stock market doesn't mean anything to sales numbers.
Had a big main Assassin's Creed. We haven't had a big main Far Cry. One is coming in November, and I think there'll be a lot of attention on that.
It's looking positive, I think, for the next Assassin's Creed. It's the center.
Now, this is when they go on to talk about how it's so close to Star Wars Outlaw sale numbers.
Out there looks
Star Wars Outlaw sales and how it could impact Star Wars Outlaw.
Oh yeah, I've no doubt that Shadows is definitely going to be a hit. Like I would be shocked if that doesn't do well. But it's as you say, Chris. Like we haven't had another Far Cry, another Watch Dogs, another a Ghost.
Watch Dogs. That's an interesting one. I was thinking about back to the launch of the PS4, and when you look at things like Watch Dogs, sort of faded away a bit. But I think I thought it was interesting they decided to sort of take Massive off Division and start and work on those licensed games, and now they're doing the next game's Division 3. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that it would have been but we've seen this a lot. We've seen it with Square Enix as well, right? They put a lot of their studios on. Well, our games aren't quite hitting the numbers we want to hit. Hey, how about we put Marvel characters into them and build it? And that hasn't worked either. I don't think the solution is, and I'm not saying that's what Ubisoft have done here, but I don't think a solution to creating a bigger hit is necessarily plastering a brand and license in it. I think
well, I guess it depends what the license is, doesn't it?
Yeah, there are exceptions to that story, but
I mean, I think Star Wars seems to me to be, although it's got such a long history when it comes to a game space, but is it a little bit tired in terms of
maybe
but actually generating interest?
The reason why I thought it would do well is because Star Wars Jedi Survivor did really well the year before, and Lego.
And when I always look at numbers like this. Star Wars Survivor the year before, in the first few days, they only sold 200,000 units. Most of its sales was not in the first few days. But again, 200,000 versus 600,000. So Star Wars Outlaws sold 3 times better than Jedi Survivor within the first 2 days.
Star Wars did really, really well the year before that. I think they're 2 of the fastest.
But is that I think that's the innovation of the combination of Lego with Star Wars.
Yeah. It's been a while since we had a Lego.
I mean, I think Outlaws, when it was originally shown, but it did was generating a lot.
It was so. In IGN has its wish list feature on its data, and Star Wars Outlaws is still very high in that wish list, where it was until it came out. And that was a lot of that was driven from that initial Summer Games Fest E3 announcement. It was really.
So a lot of people had Star Wars Outlaws in their wish list. I was one of them. So that means that it had a lot of hype for the game. So the game sold well. No matter how much the hater want to say it didn't sell well, it sold well.
Really big reveal. And then if you look at just the second Summer Games Fest, it was quite low down on the list, Star Wars. It got drowned out by a lot of other games. Now that's going to happen because it wasn't a new announcement. But it did worry me a little bit that what was the hero title a year before, a year later was out of the top 10. And
new games, when a new games is announced, those games will be basically boosted up. That's the thing. They're announcing games so far ahead. And when they do come out, it's less hype for them, but people still have it in their wish.
And that was the first time I remember, Jane, we were talking about how well if you think it would do. I was getting a bit anxious because I worried the momentum had dipped. And I think that's the thing. Like, we're getting to this point where games are being announced closer and closer to release. And Star Wars Outlaws had unusually, really, had quite a long PR cycle, and you look at some of the big games coming out this year. We just had Astrobot, we've got Zelda coming up, even Call of Duty, even though we knew it'd be there. They were sort of, even Assassin's Creed Shadows was only shown a few months ago, right? So they're a lot. The from announced to release is a lot shorter for those titles, and maybe that's more effective. I don't know.
There, right there, you see how it said Assassin's Creed Shadow was just shown a few months ago. Right? While other games like Star Wars Outlaw had a longer cycle. That's another reason why they're doing it. So they're giving it more time to basically have some cycles and some information. Basically, the first few trailers are, the setup. And then they realize 2 things. Yeah, they are putting too close together to other big games like Star Wars Outlaw, which again each year had a major Star Wars game, and that game blew out the year. Each year, and then it was like, well, now we have Assassin's Creed and everything. This is too close together, so we're gonna need to back it off some. That's why.
We should get a PR and marketing expert.
We should.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bigger question here around sort of IP and what resonates with audiences and stuff. I think we touched on it a little bit there in the context of Star Wars license. But I think games IP as a whole, as a driver of a franchise, have become much more relevant and important. So
Uh, this far, they're gonna go into basically stuff that's stable, stability over you know new IPs and stuff. Which again, that's always gonna happen. It's kind of funny. The haters used to bring up the whole thing. Well, why don't you make your own games instead of using old IPs? But those same haters was like be driven to buy old stuff instead of new IP. Like again, look at Stellar Blade, new IP. Nobody was buying it. It sold 1 million copies in 2 months. Star Wars Outlaws could have sold 1 million copies, if not more, within the first week. We don't know the exact number yet, but from what we see, it did sell a lot in the first week. Even by their numbers, it sold 800,000 within the first 1 to 2 days. 800,000 within the first 1 to 2 days. Stellar Blade sold 1 million within 2 months. And then there was Hi-Fi Rush with so three it within the first year it sold 3 million, which means within the first month it could sold 1 million copies. Let's see. Let me look it up while I'm thinking about it. Hmm. 2 million by March. Okay. By March. All right. And okay, it March. 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 Okay, so within oh yeah, wow. Within 3 months it sold 2 million, and then so the year after that. So 3 months. No, that's 2 months. It's so this game's Hi-Fi Rush sold better than Stellar Blade in 2 months. So Hi-Fi Rush sold 2 million within 2 months. Stellar Blade sold 1 million within 2 months. Hi-Fi Rush by the end of the year sold another million, and the student closed down. Stellar Blade so basically it sold double Stellar Blade. Again, this is a new IP, mind you. People don't understand it. This is a new IP. Hi-Fi Rush was a new IP. It sold 2 million within the first 2 months. Stellar Blade is a new IP. So 2 million within it sold 1 million within the first 2 months. Hi-Fi Rush sold double that, and by the end of it, it sold another million. The studio closed down. Stellar Blade sold 1 million. Even if you add another 50% like what happened with Hi-Fi Rush, it sold 1.5. It's gonna sell around 1.5 to 2 million by the end of the year or end of this year. That's why I'm saying Stellar Blade is a flop. Haters are not understanding that Stellar Blade sold 1 million. You can by the end of the year, games like that usually sell between 50% to double. So and it's rare to sell over double the first initial month or two, or first initial month. Really, it's rare to sell that much. Some games do. New IPs and stuff don't. So if you take the first month or two, and then you take the first month, you can double that. And that tell you how many sales you can. You take the first 2 months, you can you can add 50% to the sale number, see how it will do in a year. So if Hi-Fi Rush did 2 million within the first 2 months, and then by the end of the year, it it only sold another million. So it sold 3 million within 1 year. Stellar Blade sold 1 million. And if you do the same calculation as Hi-Fi Rush, and you go out for a year, that means Stellar Blade, that 1 million, double that, or add 50% to that. So that's 1.5 million. You can even jump that up to 2 million, but still, 2 million, 3 million Hi-Fi Rush had the studio closed down. 1.5 million, you saying, or to 2 million, you saying Stellar Blade is like Stellar Blade is a breakout game. It's great. It's gonna take Stellar Blade was the flop. No matter what you say, it's not looking good for Stellar Blade. Maybe they hit the 2 million mark, but again, Hi-Fi Rush, new IP, so 3 million copies was a flop. Let me double check something. What system came out? It came out all systems. Even still, it still was a flop. And this didn't come out all system at first. So look at the scores. People want to use the scores as well. Look how well it was doing in that, and they closed down. This is not. It didn't come out all system when it initially released. It just came out a few. Then it went to all. If Stellar Blade could do the same thing, it won't sell big. So basically, that's what they're going over.
We're seeing more content take the shift from games to other entertainment.
Also, that's the same thing Stellar Blade is doing right now. Come think about it. They want to put 2B in the game. I'm like, that's not gonna work. And if your game did poorly on sale and did terrible, it's not gonna boost it up by trying to slap a new coat of paint on it.
It's not just about sort of hanging on the coattails of audiences from other entertainment franchises. So there is this kind of change in dynamic. It's understanding what those consumers that have come in to the market. So it's not me and you so much. It's more these people that have now buying into consoles and they're sort of becoming.
This is the quote modern audience that haters hate so much. New people that are buying games and stuff and everything, you cannot just say, well, why are they selling to this modern audience? Modern audience is just the people who most likely to buy the games and stuff. The new audience. If you are upset that now you're no longer that new audience, you're the problem here.
Becoming the console users and stuff. What sort of interest they have in different IP and stuff.
Well, I've got another IP. We have a segment at the end of this, Piers. I'm going to mention another IP in that. So that has done very well.
Well, let's subtly segue into that segment, Chris. It is time for me to ask you, as I do every week, what do the numbers mean?
What do the numbers mean? So I want to say there's somebody who listens to our podcast that keeps referring to this segment as By the Numbers, and I'd love to know our listeners' opinion in whether or not we should be calling this By the Numbers.
Okay. So they're going on to another section. But from what you heard, Star Wars Outlaw is doing decently well. Not as well as they thought it would, but it's still doing decently well. That's a good thing. If you're mad about the numbers showing that Star Wars Outlaw is selling really good within the first 2 days or even day, that's not Star Wars Outlaw. That's you. That's a you problem. And again, they only have for 2 systems. Not all of them. That means by the end of the first 3 days, it could easily sell for me. By the end of the first 5 days, it could easily sell for me. By the end of the first week, it could easily sell for me. That means it's only been a month now today or yesterday, depends on how you want to use it. It only been a month, and then the sales numbers are looking good. Anyway, that's what I've been saying to the haters, and that's what the haters are not getting. Star Wars Outlaw sales numbers are really good. You can be upset with it all you want. It doesn't change the fact that it came out and it's only been a full month. It's only been came out on the 30th. Today is the 30th of September. So it's only been 31 days, and it sold those numbers within the first 31 days. You can say, well, it's a major IP, and they should be selling well, and selling $800 within the first day is poor. No, it's not. Again, you can say whatever you want. They're doing really well. If the game is selling well, be upset all you want. Doesn't change the fact that the game's selling well. Anyway, later.